Hello, good evening. I'm Jeff. Welcome to Jeff Ball Photography YouTube. If you're new to my channel, I invite you to stick around. I'm experimenting with more live broadcasting and live observing. It's really a passion of mine is to do more public outreach and public observing. And I have a lot of tools and resources I'm going to be sharing with both online and in person over the next few months. But the channel is largely oriented toward presenting artistic interpretations of deep space objects. But tonight we have a waxing gibbous moon, pretty far along in the approach toward a full moon. I believe full moon will be in a couple of days. And we're kind of getting toward the end of when it's really most ideal to observe the moon. Full moon's not a great time to observe the moon as we start to lose our shadow definition on the surface of the moon. So I thank you for joining me. I'm going to do a couple of technical things. I'm going to kick you right back out to the view of the moon and refresh this. And we have some pretty cool views coming up. So this is a live view of the moon. I live in Huntington, West Virginia. We have a pretty decent sky tonight. The seeing conditions, which would be a measure of the steadiness of the sky, that wasn't going to be great tonight, but I still wanted to give this a try. And what you can see, I have the flexibility with my camera to crop down to smaller fields of view or expand out to larger fields of view. So for instance, when we go out to a larger field of view, the moon should look a little crisper, a little more defined. So that's a 960p, this is 720p. A little crisper, and then as we zoom in, this is a tighter crop, 480p. We can certainly start to see a little bit more of the features at a larger scale. And then we can drill down to 360. And we can go down to 240. Now what you're seeing, that shakiness and waviness and wavering, that's the seeing, the steadiness of the sky, the turbulence that's in the sky, and that's all tied into upper atmosphere winds and the steadiness of the winds, the abruptness, the breaking up. I'm in West Virginia. We have hills that can break up the flow of these winds and mountains and really make them very, very wavy, very curvy. And that's really what starts to distort the seeing conditions, the quality of the steadiness. The best steadiness is what they call a smooth laminar flow, and that would be over a coastline, an island. Hawaii would be really ideal. Philippines, some of the best high-resolution amateur astrophotography of planets is done mostly at island or at least beach-type locations where there's a large, smooth flow of air that's not disrupted by mountain ranges or hills. So this is our live view of the moon tonight. Occasionally I'm going to look back and check out chat. And thank you for joining me. I would ask you to jump right in if there's something you want to see. I invite you to put it up on the screen. If you're a lunar observing expert, I welcome your advice and your views and your input, because I am not. I am a deep space imager. If you're just joining us, I mainly spend my time without the moon in the sky, under a dark sky, capturing images of deep space objects. But tonight I wanted to take a stab at the moon. I really want to do more public observing, public outreach. And the moon is something that obviously captures everyone's attention and is a great object to get folks excited about astronomy. Easy to observe. A good pair of binoculars are great to observe the moon. Now, one of the things I'm going to be doing tonight is referencing throughout the night a book that I am using to help find objects and identify those features that we're going to be observing. This is an old, oh gosh, I think this was a 92 publication. There may be something better out there, but this is the one I use. Oh, that's interesting. This was from Astronomy Magazine, called Atlas of the Moon, edited by Dr. T.W. Rackham. And I've had this, I think this was published in 92. I did find it on the website. I did find it on Amazon. It's now $51.97. So I paid $35, so inflation. And so it's Atlas of the Moon, hardcover. They're showing January 1992 as a I guess initial publication date. Hey, 5 stars, 39 ratings. But there are many options. Here's another Atlas of the Moon here for $30. I don't know how the two compare, but I would invite you to check those out if you are interested in observing the moon and doing many observing certificates. If you're a member of the Astronomical League, I invite you to check out their observing certificates if you haven't already. It's a wonderful resource and wonderful objective to seek out. And let's get back to our moon view and see where we are. Now, what I had centered was a classic crater, Copernicus. And we're getting close. If you're just joining us, we got 4 folks watching. Thanks for joining us. If you have something, if you're a lunar observing expert, please chime in. I am not. I just wanted to share some views through my scope setup. And I did not have time to take an image of the scope setup tonight, like I did 2 nights ago when we were observing Jupiter. But let's look at our first real featured object here. And this is Copernicus, the crater Copernicus. And let's see here, maybe, let's go to the 380. I did not even pull or align this scope setup. I have to set up in my street, in front of my house, because if you watched 2 nights ago, you know I do not have a very good low horizon in my backyard. And so I have to go out in the street and set up my cars in a way to block traffic. It's a lightly traveled cul-de-sac, but still I don't want to leave my gear out there. But Copernicus, I wanted to do this tonight because, as you can see, we're starting to lose our shadow definitions. One thing I'm trying to learn in OBS is how to show a cursor on the screen. But Copernicus is right, let me see if I can get it centered up here. Pretty close to center of the screen there, the large crater. And you can see on the right edge of the crater, we still have some shadow definition there. And let me give you a little bit of insight into Copernicus. It's definitely one of the most known and most typical of the lunar formations. It's the center of bright rays, which can be traced across the surface of Mare Imbrium. We're going to see if we can see those with this type of lighting. And I might just increase some exposure here to see if, we'll See how that holds up. I think you can probably start to see the beginning of those rays coming off of the crater. Try to get it there. There we go. And I may sporadically start taking some video to process later. This is probably slightly overexposed. Okay, my histogram down here. That's probably good exposure there. Tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to center this up, and I'm going to try to grab some frames because I like this object and composition. We still have some shadow relief here that helps add some definition to the scene. So I'm going to grab about 30 seconds of video. So to the west of Copernicus, so in the upper left here, if you go up above Copernicus to the left, you can see what is a scattering of some solitary hills, and those hills rise to the height of several hundred meters by themselves. So it's oftentimes very hard to put into perspective the depth of the moon features that we see because of our distance and our inability to really get high resolution viewing. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to rearrange this frame. Tell you what I'll do is I'll zoom out. And that, up at the top, I'm going to scroll down just a little bit. And let's move over. So this mountain range that you see coming into view up at the top left, so that mountain range is Montes Carpatus, or the Carpathian Mountains, the mountain range of the southern margin of Mare Imbrium. It stretches approximately east and west, and its length is about 400 kilometers. It consists of individual hills and mountains whose heights are between 1,000 and 2,000 meters. So this is a really nice mountain range. I know you can't see my mouse, but hopefully you're able to see that mountain range. It's up there on that upper left corner. Looking at some other features here, hopefully I'm able to pull these in. There's a double crater called Pfalth A and Pfalth B. And I'm looking at my reference. There they are. Okay. Yeah, let's zoom in on them. I think I can see where they are. So let's reposition. Oops, I lost the feed. See if I can get it back here. Okay. Let's go down over a little bit. And so Copernicus is the bright crater, and then just below Copernicus is a double crater. Let's see if we can get that resolution. I'm not sure we can. I'm going to zoom in as far as possible here. Okay. It's tough. I can see it breaking up because I'm looking at this reference chart as well. But just below Copernicus, which is upper center of the frame, and you can see the central peaks of the crater there. Just below it, you see, hopefully, what looks like a figure 8 almost. 2 craters. The left edge is bright. It has the sunlight coming in on it with the shadow on the left. Those are actually 2 craters, and those are Pfalth A and Pfalth B. Hey, Mayfan, just checking the chat. Yeah, Copernicus on that width is 58 miles in diameter. So hopefully you have a good reference on that can help put that into perspective. Thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it. And thanks for that input. If you have any other questions or ideas or objects you want to look at, please put them in the chat. Thank you, Mayfan. I really appreciate it. I'm going to stick here. I'm on what is called chart number 31 in the book I referenced earlier. If you're just joining us, the book I'm using as a reference for tonight's moon observing is the Atlas of the Moon. It was published via Astronomy magazine. I bought this back around 1992. This is it on Amazon. It's just the atlas that I have. If you're going to do telescope observing of the moon and are looking for a hard paper reference, this is a good one. Now I can tell you some of there's probably some digital references out there. I am mostly a deep space imager, so I'm not an expert on observing the moon. But this is part of my public outreach I wanted to share. And one of the things I can do is show you what Sky Safari looks like as a reference. So what good and bad, Sky Safari does have many of the objects and you can zoom in. So this is the moon as it is right now. They will change the shadowing, but they don't add a lot of shadow definition and contrast to the object. So this is Copernicus, but this is very flat light in Sky Safari. And then, okay, I should show you this. Maybe, let's see if it'll click. Yeah, there we go. So earlier, I was showing you Falth A and Falth B. This is where the Falth is. Let's go back to our live view and see if we can drill down into that. Okay, let's go a little higher resolution and a little higher or a little closer crop. So can you see as a reference, let me get that. Okay, I just about have it centered there. So let me go back to Sky Safari. If you can see that. I know you can't see my cursor. I really need to figure out, but yeah, you can see, hopefully, there's Falth A and Falth B just below Copernicus. If we go back to the live view, yeah, hopefully you can see it there. The steadiness of the sky is really not going to allow us to pull that out. And well, since you're joining me, I did not do that. Last night or 2 nights ago, I had a video that showed the actual telescope setup that I use. Tonight, I did not have time to do that. This was kind of a quick setup I wanted to do, but I have a totally different setup. This is a short focal length. This is my Astro-Physics 92 millimeter refractor. So it's my Astro-Physics 92 millimeter refractor, and I did not put a Barlow. I started out with a 2x Barlow, and the seeing conditions were just very unsteady. So I just thought we would be fine kind of doing this, and I can change kind of the field of view here throughout the night. So this would be, the widest field of view I can achieve with just the camera that I use is the ZWO ASI 224 MC. And so this is on the Astro-Physics 92 millimeter. It's about a 500 millimeter focal length. And it's on the ZWO Am5 mount. If you are, let's see here, I think you'll be able to, hopefully you'll be able to see this. I know some things don't show up in OBS broadcasts, and I'm still learning that. Thank you for your patience. I'm just watching my rebroadcast here to see if this window pops up for you guys. There we go. It looks like it does. So this is my setup. The main camera is an ASI 224 MC, and then the mount is the ZWO Am5 mount. I did not polar align this at all tonight. I just set it up in my street. I have a fairly good idea where Polaris is, and I just manually set it up, and I didn't even revisit it. And I'm pretty darn close to a pretty good setup here. Look at this feature that's starting to really pop out. You just never quite know how things are going to change. So let's move around just a touch here. And look at this squiggly little thing going on right there in the middle. That is an interesting feature. I do not know what that is. But I'm going to try to look that up. Wow, what an interesting feature. It just looks like a series of hills, but with this type of shadowing, it almost looks snake-like. Now, there are some features. I know there's Rupees Recta, I believe, is the name of the feature. So let me do something here. Let me go to 480, and I'm going to capture some video on that. I might work that up as a still image. I think the exposure is good on this. And if you've got some comments, would like to see something in particular at this particular phase of the moon, please put it in the chat. Hey, Brent, thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it. Sorry that I have to look away for the chat. This is kind of the best. I'm on a MacBook, and then I have my iMac here. I'm just confirming that the broadcast is up and running. If you were with us the other night, oops, I need to stop that video capture. That was 47 seconds, probably a little too long, especially given my polar alignment and its drifting. If you joined me 2 nights ago for the Jupiter observing, you kind of saw that I was dealing with some of these dropped frames with an ASI Air. I'm using this ASI Air as my interface. I'm doing an Ethernet connection to the ASI Air. And really the ASI Air, I wasn't sure where the issue was in terms of dropping frames and really losing video feed. Pretty sure it's the Raspberry Pi ASI Air graphics capability. This is the ASI Air Plus. It's just not able to stream out anything at the 960 or the 720p. It can stream the 480p without interruption. So that's one reason why I went with this presentation tonight on with no Barlow, and we're just achieving kind of our magnification, if you would, via cropping the sensor itself. So I have ordered a 75-foot long USB, what do they call it, where it has power on the USB cable, USB 3. So I'm going to connect that directly to the camera and have it come directly into the MacBook, and I think that'll help me be able to really have full capability to capture a 960p and a nice smooth streaming capability all the way down to the 240p. But 480p, the ASI Air Plus on the Raspberry Pi, that graphics card can handle that with the 226 MC ZWO camera. So I think what I'm going to do is center that up again. I'm going to take a few images. Oh. Chris, ECP, thank you for stepping in. Let me try to get back here. Oh, I know. You want to see the cheese. Is this possible to see the blue lake in a crater? No, I don't know that. Thanks, Brent. Really appreciate it. It's always fun sharing some views with the public. I just always hope that maybe somebody's out there looking for some YouTube content, and just spending a few minutes with observing the moon would be a good way to spend good clean way to spend a Saturday night, right? ECP, yeah, you are crazy. Can we zoom in on the moon landing site? Well, you know what? The moon landing sites are, right now, Chris, we're a little limited in looking at things that have some shadow contrast on the moon. And most of the lunar landing sites are in what would be flat light or really bright light. Let me try something here. But there's one very distinct, I think it's Apollo 12's landing site. I really apologize. I should know that. I've only been doing astronomy for over 20 years. But one of the Apollo landing sites is near that, I think it's called Cineas. It's a snake-like canyon. And that feature is very prominent even in amateur telescopes, and it's easy to see. I don't think I'm going to, just out of curiosity, this is just for you, ECP. Let's take a little stroll across the moon. And what you're going to see is I have the exposures over here for these kind of dimmer, shadowy areas. And then when we get over here toward the full brightness of the moon, you can see it's very flat, very hard to see structure. But let me try something here. And I do have the camera oriented in a way that is pretty much the way you would see it naked eye or through binoculars. Now this is a cool thing. Look at this ejecta ray out of this. I should know this crater. But look at this ejecta ray. I wish you could see my cursor. But if you can see the really bright white crater that's center, lower third center, and you can see that bright ray that's going across that dark mare. Now that mare there is, okay, I've got another reference here. Mare Humorum. That is Mare Humorum, and you can see that ejecta ray going through there. So for Chris, let me see if I can find that Apollo landing site for Chris. Oops. All right, Chris, you're going to have to give me a second here. All right, I'm going to look for that. Hold on. I'm working on this, ECP. Oh my gosh. Sheesh. Why is it so difficult? Google. All right, here we go. Let's see. Okay. Sky at Night magazine. Let me see. Give me a good clickable reference here, Sky at Night. Yes, I agree. Okay. '17 is the one I was thinking of. Apollo 17. Oh, no, Apollo 15. The Apennine Mountains, onto the side, Mons Hadley. That's the one I was thinking of. So, just real quick. Yeah, I don't think we're going to, that nice sinuous crater there around Mons Hadley. And okay. Thanks for bearing with me. Let me see here, guys, if I can get that. We are going to Apollo 15 landing site and check it out as best as we can. Mons Hadley. Mons Hadley, chart number 22, if you're following along with me in the, okay, so let me go back. Hopefully I haven't lost my moon yet. Okay, and let me work on that exposure a little bit. Okay, there we go. All right. You zoom out, see if I can maintain this just a touch. Okay, we are going right over here. Okay, I'll see where we're going. Okay, right below Archimedes. Okay, right below Archimedes. Okay, I think I got it centered. But Chris, it's going to be, I don't have a real high resolution on this presentation tonight, but I believe, so you have the large crater that's up at the top of the frame, and that one is called Archimedes. And then you come over and you can see this shadowy ridge on the mountains that's just almost in the middle, maybe the upper 40% there. And that's called Mons Bradley. Going to go up from that, and there's a valley. And that valley is where Apollo 15 landed. Let me try to show you. Let me go back to the this was the reference I was using. Apollo 15, you can see these are the Apennine Mountains that are to the, I know you can't see my cursor, I need to work on that, but to the bottom third of the image are the mountains, and then you have that valley, and then Apollo 15 landed in that valley there. A much hillier area among the Apennine Mountains close to the site of Mons Hadley. Apollo 15's landing site was geologically very interesting. Nearby Hadley Rill was a prime target of exploration, that sinuous flow there. So that's, but I needed to use tonight, I did not use my long refractor focal length because the steadiness of the sky was not going to really permit what we would call high resolution observing. So we're somewhat limited, but I think we're pretty close to the region right in here. And there could be a day where we have a little bit better shadow contrast to it as well. So you can see a little bit more definition in the area. Let me add some light to it. That's probably better viewed around first quarter moon, but it's obvious. This is one of the favorite things to view in the Apennine Mountains and that whole region. So let me touch back with, yeah, you're just relaxing. Yeah, I see you, Chris. So, quick question: are the flags and footprints and other stuff left there in the lunar landing sites? Oh, you do see the cursor. Okay. Well, that's good. Yeah, I think this looks good on the big screen. I watched my broadcast from the other night, and I thought it looked pretty good on the screen. So, yeah, and Chris, yeah, the flags are still there. The footprints are pretty. There's no wind. There's no atmosphere on the moon, so the footprints are still there, unless some micrometeorites, I guess, or meteorites have impacted and maybe dust has flown. I guess dust could be popped up and when a micrometeorite or meteorite hits, and I'm not sure what the rate of dust settling on the moon is. There's probably some rate of dust always settling down on the moon, but from a gravitational being, ejected, the low gravity, I guess it could probably be ejected up and then pulled back down. This is Jeff Ball speculating. But yeah, the Apennine Mountains are a great thing to observe, not quite at this particular time because of the brightness of the moon. We're really at what's called a waxing gibbous moon. And so that's where you want to observe over here where the shadows and the relief are coming in to play because of the light on the moon. But yeah, that's a great, Apollo 15 is a great observing, and we'll put that on the list to check out around first quarter whenever we get a good opportunity. So we're back to Copernicus. And let's see what else we can find here. Yeah, this area here I wanted to visit. Let's go back to our Sky Safari. Show you where we are. So we've moved up. And we're kind of in this region right here. Again, Sky Safari does not show very detailed relief, shadow relief with the given sun, but I think, let me zoom out just a little bit. This might be pretty close to our view right there. Let me go back to our scene. Okay. See how much shadowy and relief you have in contrast? That's one thing the Sky Safari doesn't present very well, and that's a very critical thing to consider when you're observing features on the moon. I think we're pretty close to that. Okay, I see. Yeah, I need to probably, yeah, go over Sky Safari a little bit. Okay. Probably more like this. So let's see what this is. So this is Mare Imbrium, that entire lava field Mare, and this is the crater Plato. See Plato pretty much right in the center of the field. Right there. Center of the field. Hey, Helder. Yeah, Helder, I'm not familiar with the blue lake in the crater on the moon. I'm not familiar with that. If that's a special feature or if it's a coloration, that's I know there's some features that do show some coloration. I do have a color camera in, but I'm not familiar with what you're asking there. Let me make sure that I've got this. Oops, sorry. Meant to go back to the live view. Sorry about that. Again, if you're just joining us, thank you. My name is Jeff Ball. This is Jeff Ball Photography YouTube channel. I do deep space astrophotography, and I'm trying to share more and more some live observing sessions. Just a great opportunity to chime in if you've got something special you want to see, or if you have a question, I will do my best to answer. And we have tonight's featured object is the moon. Come on. Okay, that's good. ECP, glad to hear that. What was I looking up here? Plato. Let me see what page Plato is on here in my handy dandy Moon Atlas. Again, if you're just joining us, one of the references I have, and I highly recommend this reference because it's good whether you're just naked eye observing the moon, or you're using binoculars, or you're using a telescope. And there could be something else that meets your needs, but I have to tell you, this is one of my favorite resources. Oops, sorry about that. And that is called the Atlas of the Moon. I think it was first published in 1992. I've had it probably ever since then, and this is what I'm using tonight. I don't have this set up as a reference link or commission link or anything. This is just what I'm using tonight. I just wanted to share that as a resource. I think it's nice because it can be used as both a wide field and a reference, and it can also get very high resolution reference too. So that's why I use it when I'm doing these presentations. So we're going to dig down. Let me get back into Plato. Let me check here. Yeah. Plato, yeah. I got it, Chris. Are you taking your cough medicine tonight? What is going on with you, man? Yeah, Plato. Yes. You go straight to Plato. I know you're a grandfather now, but that's good. I like Plato too. I used to eat it. Did you eat Plato? Man, it tastes like crap, but yeah, people eat it. craters. And let's see here. Plato the crater, Plato the philosopher. Plato 3 and 4, charts 3 and 4 in that atlas of the moon. I just wanted to give you a little bit of insight because Plato is such a landmark crater. So let me go back. Let's zoom in. I've got a little bit of a polar misalignment tonight that, again, I just plopped the scope down and roughly polar aligned where I never did a detailed polar alignment. So I've got a little drift in our objects tonight, so apologize for that. But Plato is pretty much right there in the center of the field of view. Plato, this is in the northern region of the moon and the western part of Mare Frigoris. The lower part of the map is occupied by the walled plain Plato, which has a very dark floor. Mare Frigoris and Mare Imbrium are separated by a narrow continental strip. Yeah, okay. Can you see that? I guess Plato is in that continental strip. Plato, prominent Greek philosopher, pupil of Socrates. There's no mention of Plato, Chris, in my book, but maybe they need to amend that to include Plato. Taught that Earth is moving, believed that the center of space is a central fire. It's a 71-kilometer crater. So you can do the math on that. 71, I don't know, 30, 38 miles roughly wide is the crater Plato. And yeah, it's a good one. Let's see if we can zoom in here just a little bit more. I'll check chat here in just a second, but I invite you to jump in if you have any questions, insights, favorite toys that you grow up with. So there we go. There's Plato. It looks pretty good right there, doesn't it, guys? Yeah. Let me get that out of the way. And you can see this rift over here. I don't know if you can see my cursor while I'm showing you the lunar images, but this rift here, that's a cool looking canyon. But that is Plato. Do I think the Earth will ever get hit by an asteroid? Yeah, why wouldn't it, right? I mean, I guess we're doing all we can to set up planetary defense, but the odds are that the Earth will get hit by a significant asteroid. I mean, it's getting hit by meteors. I think every day a meteor is hitting, but is there one of any consequence? Well, yeah, there's going to eventually be one of consequence. And maybe our planetary defense systems will be in place and ready. But until then, yeah, the odds are good we are going to get hit. There we go. I'm looking for my mount control. What do you think? What do you hear? What do you guys think? Are we going to get hit by an asteroid? The most recent mission, I can't remember all the names of the missions, but to deflect the orbiting. There was kind of an asteroid moon that we impacted with a rocket crash, and proved to be successful. The trajectory, right, or the orbit of the orbiting asteroid moon was altered, and that was a good thing. So hopefully that bodes well for us going forward. So thanks for joining us. If you are new to the stream, my name is Jeff Ball. This is my YouTube channel. I typically present deep sky images and astronomy and deep dark sky parks and travel, but I'm doing more and more of these live broadcasts to just share observing with the internet community. And what a great way, good, clean fun on a Saturday night. So let's go back out to 960. So there's our wide field view of the moon for tonight. And that's the north. Pretty much north is up. And, to the left would be the west of the moon, and to the east, or to the right would be the east of the moon. I have this pretty much oriented correctly with what you would see if you went outside right now and looked through a pair of binoculars, which I did before starting the observing for tonight. It was a great view through my Canon image stabilized binoculars. If you're just joining us and you're asking about the equipment, let me check chat. I think we should go back and put some astronauts. Yeah. Pretty sure that's the plan, Chris, to put some astronauts back on the moon. Of course, Artemis, I believe, did Artemis begin its return back to Earth? So that's one pathway. I know SpaceX probably has an alternative pathway. So I believe we will have astronauts on the moon probably within the next 10 years, I believe. That's a fairly safe bet. So that's, of course, everything's being built around the mission to Mars. And we'll see if we can effectively utilize the moon as a jump-off point or as a base to build our Mars missions from. But if you're new to astronomy, or maybe you're an astronomy veteran, if you know observing lunar features, I ask you to chime in. We'll find probably one more feature here to share before we close out tonight, because I'll probably have a hard stop as the moon gets closer and closer to the meridian. Let me go back to Sky Safari and zoom out. If you're looking for an app for your phone, for desktop, I use Sky Safari. And let me turn off my scope display. Sorry about that. There we go. Oops. Okay. And so that's the moon as you would see it tonight. And a pair of binoculars, it would, 8 by 50s, probably look about like that. That would be a nice view. I think my 10 by 15s, it was, my 15 by 50s looks about like that. So 8 by 50s, right around there. You can see a lot of features. And again, if you are new to astronomy and want to do observing, I'm going to do this on the fly. If you are looking for some other help other than the Atlas of the Moon, I highly encourage you. I did this when I first got into astronomy, but the Astronomical League is a great, if you have a local astronomy club, they are probably a member of the Astronomical League. And what you'll find here are, you can find an astronomy club, and you can also find observing programs. And they have so many observing programs here. If you think the universe is unlimited, then you're right, because this is everything you can do in the Astronomical League. And I know they have a lunar observing certificate. It's not coming up here on my eyes. Let me see here. I think it's called the Lunar Observing Certificate. They have several. So here's a lunar and binocular lunar observing programs. What a great way to get started. You can just simply you get your binoculars, and there's a lunar binocular observing certificate. I did that when I got into astronomy. Very fun, great activities to be engaged in and keep you focused on an objective for your observing. What happened to my moon? I hope you're still plugged in. There we go. Okay, what I'm going to do is look for a couple more objects. Let me check chat. Hey, Hey, Milan, yeah, looking at Mars, I don't know if I would blame your scope 100% because Mars can be challenging. Mars is, while it is close, obviously reached opposition, I think, a night or two ago, while in the first, I believe. Um, it's a challenging object. It is high in the sky. I'm not sure where you live, but hopefully Mars is positioned high in the sky, but Mars can be challenging. And to be quite honest, if you can catch it a little higher in the sky right now, it's somewhat still close to the horizon. But maybe give it a couple hours. But if you're not already checking things, I'm guessing you're probably an advanced amateur. But for those who don't know, a couple of things, a couple of resources that I use um, for trying to evaluate. You have several things for observing, and one is obviously, are there any clouds? So that's the first criteria that you have to get past. But the other, I don't think, let me see if I have that. I don't see it up and running here. So the other is there's one resource that's online. It's called Clear Dark Sky. This is a resource that can show you, you put in you can find your location. Let's find a chart, and I'll show you my home chart here, and you can search by state. You can go to a map, and the chart that I use is one for the Donald C. Martin Observatory. And so that's our viewing tonight. Whoa, you can see here, transparency really is going to fall off a cliff here after midnight. That's why I'm not doing deep sky observing. But if you can see, I know you can't see my cursor, but or maybe you can. Chris, let me know if you can see my cursor. Yeah, okay, Milan, yeah. Columbus, yeah, that's fine. You have plenty of I'm sure clear sky charts up around the Columbus area. I know you got dozens of them. So if you can see my cursor, if you can't, it's the third line down. It's the quality of seeing. And in this particular chart, dark is good. Dark blue is good. And you can see here we just have a teal or a light blue for the quality of seeing for tonight, which means, as you can see here, I am, hopefully you can see as I put my cursor. Okay, you can, I can see my cursor on the broadcast. So you can see here, look at this, where are we here at, it's really bad. So that's why I didn't go with real high resolution, longer focal length for tonight. If you're just tuning in, I went with a shorter focal length. It's a 92 millimeter refractor, about a 500 millimeter focal length. And no Barlow or anything. I just have my 224 MC camera. But this is the seeing, and it's probably the same in Columbus. We had that cold front come through. So there's a lot of upper atmosphere turbulence that's coming through. Now tomorrow night looks like a better night, especially, again, look here after midnight. So you got average seeing tomorrow, at least for Huntington, where I am, for tomorrow night. So I'd encourage you to, if you can, give Mars a view at least tomorrow night's a little bit better, even early. And then look at here. So you got, yeah, average seeing at 7, 6, 7, 8 o'clock. So I would give it a chance then, and it might be a little bit better. And it takes a lot of focal length for Mars, to be honest. You'd have to, that's one of those that really responds well to the Schmidt-Cassegrain telescopes, over 2,000 millimeters in focal length, plus a real small millimeter eyepiece. You're talking like 3, 4, 5 millimeter eyepieces. So you can get up to 200x or more to really start to see Mars's features. And you might also research some filters, some color filters for Mars. Yeah, Chris, I know. I look at Uranus all the time, and I know. Yeah, I can tell you've had too much cough syrup. Uranus is, we have access to a C14 for our local astronomy club. And so that starts to get into the type of focal length that you need to really start to view, especially Mars, Uranus, Neptune. And you can see them, they will show up as, Uranus will show up as a disk, a fuzzy disk with blue color. So it's cool to see. I've looked at it several times years ago through a scope, so it was all good. So I'm trying to answer your question. Maybe I can, I don't really want to block you, Chris, but you know, if you don't know, Chris and I are really good friends. We go way back, and I'm honored to have him on my broadcast here tonight. So thanks for joining us, Chris, and thanks to all who are on the broadcast. And yes, low-grade comedy. And thank you for your questions. If you're just joining us, my name is Jeff Ball. This is Jeff Ball Photography, YouTube, and I specialize more in deep space astrophotography. But tonight we're taking some live views of the moon, and let's go. We've kind of lost our contrasty area here. Let's just take a surf around, and we looked at Plato. There's Plato from earlier. And okay, yeah, this was one of the features I wanted to just kind of highlight. It's right there. Remember, Plato was on that Mare Imbrium edge. So let me go back. Okay, let me go back to Sky Safari. And let's zoom in. And unfortunately, Sky Safari does not show really the contrast, but you can see this is Mare Imbrium. Mare Imbrium, this entire feature here. And if you give me a second, there's some other features I want to point out as we get to those. Let me get that map in my reference. If you're just joining us, also I use the Atlas of the Moon as a reference piece. Let me show you that. If you are looking for a nice reference in paper, a hardback book, this is what I use for tonight, Astronomy Atlas of the Moon. And I'm referencing some of the various chart pages that they have listed for. They break the moon down into, let me see, how many? 76 charts. There are 76 charts. So it's a nice reference if you are doing wide field observing, binocular observing, and as you advance or start to look through a telescope, it's a great resource that you can then utilize for your telescopic observations as well. What they do is they break down the moon on the front index page. They have the entire moon carved up into 76 charts. And then you can find, so I'm going to chart number 10 right now. That's the chart that features Mare Imbrium. And I'm going to hopefully give you a little bit of insight into Mare Imbrium. And this is this actual area up here. So the area where you see the curved C, it almost looks like a C with the shadow and the sunlight hitting that far wall. I love that. I love that view there. As a matter of fact, let me see if I can zoom in a little bit more. I'm going to capture some video on this. If you don't mind, I'm going to just capture a little bit of video. Oops, if I didn't crash my ASI Air. I think I did. Hold on. All right, there we go. I just lose the video. It doesn't really crash it because you can see the video recording still going on. I'm going to get about 30 seconds on this. Might be an image. I love these areas where it's contrasting, and the goal of that image would be to pull out the detail in that wall of that. That's called the sinus iridium section of the mare imbrium. That is sinus iridium. Let me see if I can get that for you on Sky Safari so you know what I'm talking about. That would be kind of this area. Nah. Let me see here. Can't quite get that to show up in. Yeah, it's this area here. Okay, so this is one of the features I want you to take a look at. This is the Promontorium Laplace. Laplace, not French. Maybe I should look that up beforehand. Let me see. Yeah, I do have you on. Okay. So you see where that is. See what I've got highlighted there. Well, we are going to zoom in on that live. Let me center that up. Okay, that is about the center for that. Let me give a little bit more exposure to this. You know what, I'm going to capture some video here. I just didn't want to burn out the wall, so let me capture a little bit of video here. I'm going to check out chat here in just a second. Let me get this video capture completed. I'm going to do 20 seconds there. It looks like I'm starting to drift even more than I was earlier. But that right there, let me zoom in. So that center of the view is that Promontorium. Make sure I'm saying this correctly. Take you back to Sky Safari. Promontorium Laplace. That's it. Let's zoom in a little bit. So that's what we are observing live on that mare imbrium and sinus iridium, kind of the that is the sinus iridium is just to the west of this Promontorium Laplace. Let me see if I got some info I can give you on that. Promontorium, there we go. Okay, Promontorium Laplace. Cape Laplace. Pierre Simon Laplace. Laplace? Not sure. Outstanding French mathematician, disciple of Newton, worked in the field of celestial mechanics, nebula hypothesis of the origin of the solar system. The guy he lived from 1749 to 1827. So that is who that was named after. This sinus iridium, this area within the right here, almost center field of view, right there. Sinus iridium. It's the northwestern part of Mare Imbrium with the beautiful sinus iridium and the Jura mountain range, which forms its edge. So that's the Jura mountain range. You see with the sunlight hitting that ridge. I'm going to capture some video there. Sinus iridium is crossed by Mare ridges, Luna 17, which landed to the south of Cape Heraclides, transported an automatic mobile observatory. Sorry, automatic mobile observatory. Yeah, crashing my my app here when we go to record. If you're just joining us, I saw some chat questions, so I'm going to get to the chat here in just a second. Let me go back out to a wider field so I can keep my field of view. So I know yeah, Mylan, I see where you have a 70 millimeter aperture and 25 millimeter eyepiece, and should you get a Barlow, if you don't have a Barlow and 25 millimeter eyepiece is your only eyepiece, let me go back to let me do something here. Okay, if you don't have a Barlow now, obviously, and 25 is your only eyepiece, I would definitely get a Barlow. Your 70 millimeter should be fine. There's a mathematical calculation you can do to kind of get down to the theoretical maximum for your particular aperture, but I would think that a 13 millimeter on a 70 millimeter aperture scope should be fine. The only thing I would caution is that when you start to get, so that's going to be what, about 60 power, right? You're still well within I would think, the capabilities of your scope, and I hope you have a mount that one of the issues is when you start to really go higher and higher in magnification, it starts to test your mount capabilities. So I mean, we can get into that in a future broadcast on scopes and recommendations, but I think you would do well to get a Barlow, just an affordable Barlow. I would go to maybe even Astromart or Cloudy Nights. Check out those used markets for a Barlow. That would be a really affordable way to just dip your toe in the water and just play around with some Barlows and see how that would help your viewing experience. I think, if nothing else, it would really be great to have for a little higher resolution lunar observing as well. So whether or not it helps Mars is a challenge. A 70 millimeter aperture and focal length, I'm guessing maybe you're at a f6, so you're 300 focal length, 400 focal length. That's challenging for Mars. Like I said, the best observing tends to be bigger apertures, longer focal lengths, and 200 plus power start to come into play on Mars. But Jupiter, your Barlow would help with Jupiter, would help with Saturn, certainly help with the Moon. So I think it's worth checking out. Hey, Don, thanks for joining us. Don Hartzall's on. Really appreciate it. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for the nice comments, Don. Have I ever seen a UFO observing? I really haven't. I've never really seen anything that I couldn't be explained either on site or later with a little bit of research. I mean, sometimes one of the weirdest things I saw were three lights that were in a triangular formation and moving across the sky, synced up. But it was, I was told, military satellites or just some high resolution GPS satellites. So I've never really seen anything, Chris. And anytime you're at a dark sky site, there's always going to be something in the sky. There's always going to be meteors. There's always going to be fireballs. But I've never seen anything that I really questioned. Most of the time, it's something very explainable. Sorry. Yeah, would be cool to set up, out at the farm. That would be cool. See that, and we could probably do that. Yeah, we could do that, Chris. Let's get a little bit warmer conditions. Thank you, Chris. Oh, okay. Yeah, if you have a 10 millimeter, then I don't think a Barlow. I wouldn't do a Barlow on your 10. I think that probably starts to get beyond the capabilities of your 70. You might run the math. There's a math calculation to see exactly, but a 5 millimeter on a 70 millimeter scope is probably, I don't know. I don't know that it would be useful very often, but so if you got a 10, I would just stick with it, Mylan. That's a good question. I wish all the best on your observing and get Mars is great to observe right now. I understand, and if I would always check out, go to a star party or go to your astronomy club's public observing, and there's always somebody there with really cool gear who knows how to use it, and they'll share views with you, and that's a great way to also find out what gear is good. I know you can read things online, and there's a lot of opinions online. I find online forums most of the time filled with more noise than they're worth. So I like finding people in a local astronomy club who can really give you some insight. Oh yeah, Mylan, if you've watched my Calhoun County video, that location, it's a strong Bortle 3 location. My sky quality meters are showing 21.2 for dark sky quality. And if you don't mind indulging me a little bit here, guys, what I'll do is I'll show you my website and invite you to check out a lot of the resources that I have, especially including the videos that I have posted on YouTube. But this is a good place to go to see the images that I can do, and it's at earthandskyphoto.com. So I tend to specialize in what I love doing is deep sky imaging, but I really enjoy sharing views of the skies at public events, just like this. I want to do more of these. And if you go to my YouTube video page, if you haven't seen it yet, I have 2 videos actually on Calhoun County. If you're not familiar with that, it's in central West Virginia. It's a county park, but they're becoming very friendly toward astronomers, actually offering RV hookups and camping and a stargazing cabin. And that's what my latest video is about, stargazing cabin. But if you go back to about a year ago, I also did a Calhoun County Dark Sky Park as an introductory video to the park. And you ask about the Milky Way belt, absolutely. There's a little bit of light to the southwest, but if you were there spring, it's Milky Way horizon to horizon. So you can see the Milky Way galaxy all the way horizon to horizon. It's a great location. Strongly encourage you to, excuse me, if you're in Columbus, we have many people from Columbus come over to the location, and they'll spend 3 or 4 days. So I'm not sure what their drive is. I'm thinking, I cover Southern Ohio in my territory. So I've left Jackson. From Jackson, Ohio, it's 2 hours. So I would think from Columbus, you might be 4 hours to Calhoun County. And if you've got, a stretch of 3 or 4 nights and you can get away, I highly recommend it. Yeah, Milo, you can bring your tent. There's great tent camping options. They have power. They have power pedestals in 2 locations actually on the ridge. They are just finishing. There is a barn with a restroom and shower, but they are building in what's called the East Field a shower and restroom for, and it's almost complete. So once that is finished, then you're going to have a shower, restroom, and power on the field for astronomy. It's a great place to camp. And then in town, in the big town of Grantsville, you have some family cooking at Mama's 2 restaurant. And there's a Geno's and a Tudor's Biscuit World. If you're not from the area and you haven't been to Tudor's for breakfast, well, that's definitely part of the experience. that you want to check out. So yeah, you can check out Tudor's Biscuit World. Check. Yeah, Chris, that cabin was built. They did a kind of a conglomeration of grants that brought in solar panels, and at one time they were going to have an observatory attached, but it was a cabin built by basically the local vocational technical students at the county high school. So fantastic cabin. I invite you guys to check out that video, the Calhoun County stargazing cabin. And I don't want it to get too popular because I like to use it, and I don't want it to book up. I'm hoping to get up there between Christmas and New Year's, so it's really one of my go-to locations. If I can, I like to get up to the mountains of West Virginia to Spruce Knob, but Calhoun County is 2 hours for me, and of course during the winter, Spruce Knob can be very inhospitable. So Calhoun County is a great option. Sounds great, Mylan. I look forward to seeing you there. If you're not already, I have some links in my video description to go to the Calhoun County page, and they also have probably more announcements on their Facebook page. So I would search for them on Facebook if you're on Facebook. That's probably or I tell you what, another great place is Cloudy Nights. There is a thread on Cloudy Nights that, and hi Janet, thank you for joining us. I'm going to get to your question here in a second. I just saw it, but I want to get Mylan and anyone else who finds this of interest up to speed on, since I'm such a big fan of this park. Like I said in the video, there are just not many opportunities to see a park that is so friendly toward astronomers. So, okay, let's see here. Calhoun County Park. Let me, well, good. Yeah, good. Okay. So Calhoun, hopefully you're seeing this. Calhoun County Park 2022 is the thread. And yeah, it's a good group on the Cloudy Nights. Very informative. The leaders of the park will post things there, upcoming events, stargazes, things like that. And so definitely worth checking out. And Janet, thank you for joining us. And I apologize, but tonight I did not put together a video of my setup. I got it set up too late. It was pretty dark, but I set up one of my easy ones. I don't know if you were on the broadcast 2 nights ago, but 2 nights ago I had the long refractor. I had a 5x Barlow, and we were looking at Jupiter. If you didn't see that, what I could do is share with you. I tell you what was cool is we watched as Io transited the face of Jupiter. And if you will indulge me again for a second, what I'll do is share with you I was pretty pleased with this. Again, it's a 5-inch refractor, and I put a 5x Barlow on it. And come on. Well, okay. Let's try that. Sorry. Thank you for indulging me. I'm going to go to my profile. So pretty happy with this. So this is where I post all the images, and this was the image from the other night. And if you can see my cursor, it looks like you can. So we were watching Io, as you can see down here, it was still maintaining contrast, start to cross the disk of Jupiter on the southern equatorial belt. So it was a really cool event, and I broadcast that. So that was with the, Janet, that was with the 5-inch refractor and 5x Barlow. Tonight I the seeing conditions were a little unsteady, so I simply went with my Astro-Physics 92 millimeter refractor, which is about a little less than, well, about 500 millimeters focal length. I don't have a reducer on it, so it's 92 f6, so it's 500 and some millimeter focal length, no Barlow, and what I'm using is the ASI 224 MC camera, and I'm also using the ZWO Am5 mount. I am working on a video. I have had extensive experience with this Am5 mount, and I love it. It's really unbelievable, and I'm using it tonight. This is my remote setup, and I'm connected via a 75-foot long Ethernet cord, which is very unwieldy, but the gear is very short focal length. This is only 500 some focal length. Now what I'm doing to get magnification is I'm just using a crop part of the sensor. So this is the larger part, the full frame, and then I'm just cropping down to the 360p and the 480p for higher resolution, or I should say smaller crop, larger a larger image projection, larger image presentation. Thank you, Mylan. Really appreciate joining us. And Janet, thank you for joining us. Did I answer your question? I think I did. Yeah, I like to have a video of my setup for the night, but this one just did not come together. So one thing I wanted to do to finish out tonight, this is the, I wanted to get a little bit more detail because there's some craters up here that we're seeing on this sinus iridium, and I wanted to identify those before I shut down the broadcast. Let me see first off if Sky Safari will identify these. There we go. That's not what I'm looking for. Let's see here. Let me make sure I'm in the right spot. Okay, yeah, it's not going to show the crater I wanted to highlight for you, but we can see this one, Bianchini. But Sharp is the one I really wanted to show you. And if you can see, so this Bianchini, you zoom in, so that's Bianchini, and we go back to our broadcast. Okay. Let me see here if you can see my cursor. Zoom in one more time. Okay. I pretty much, yeah, I don't think you can see my cursor when I'm doing a broadcast on the ASI Air, but I have the crater Bianchini pretty much centered just above that lip. You see that lip of that crater? I'm going to take a little recording here. This may not be the best resolution, but yeah, that's cool. I'm going to take just, I'm getting a lot of drift here at this resolution, but I like this presentation. That's probably good right there. So yeah, Bianchini is centered up right there. Then the other crater that's really cool, and you're starting just to see it. It's over to the left, lower left of Bianchini, and I'm going to center it up right now. This is called crater Sharp. See that? See where the light is just hitting it and almost illuminating all of the top edges of the crater. So that's crater Sharp and Bianchini, and that is Sinus Iridium. And I think that was a good evening with the moon. There's our wide field view, and then we get down to our more tight fields. And actually, the views are looking really nice, really steady. I'm actually going to grab some video right here. Thank you, Janet. Really appreciate it. Oh my gosh, there's Chuck. There's Calhoun Chuck from Columbus. So Chuck, I don't know if you've seen the conversation that that I've had here with Mylan, but we've basically done a big Calhoun County push and talk. So I think we've got another young astronomer coming over from Columbus, and look forward to him joining us. Oops, let me stop the recording. Sorry about that. Chuck, I hope you guys are well. I haven't seen you in a while. Really, I may get to Calhoun hopefully between Christmas and New Year's, and certainly any time the weather cooperates here through the winter, especially with the cabin option. That makes things so nice, so nice. But yeah, I think we're having some pretty nice steady seeing moments here. And if you remember, the clear sky clock was showing that the seeing was to get better as the night went on. And of course, the moon's probably, what time is it here? 8:30. It's probably getting closer to the meridian, closer to the middle of the sky. So the seeing always gets good there. But hey, DeFresh, thank you for joining us. I am in Huntington, West Virginia. I'm not sure where Woodstock is, but Huntington is about as far west in the state of West Virginia as you can get. So we are right in the tri-state area of Kentucky, Ohio, and West Virginia. But I'm a member of the Northern Virginia Astronomy Club, and I love that group, and we get together over at Spruce Knob with many of their members. There we go, Chuck. You got another astronomer there right in your hometown. The wonders of the internet. You had to come to my live stream tonight to meet another astronomer. So Mylan and Chuck. And Mylan, Chuck's a pretty good guy. He hangs out with some pretty cool people. But Chuck knows what he's talking about, and he does know Calhoun County. And I'm sure Chuck knows some of the observing places over there in the central Ohio area. So you definitely want to get together with Chuck. He would be a great resource. And, Chuck Mylan had a lot of questions tonight about his scope and observing Mars. And, I tried to fill in best, but I'm not a very good observer. You're a better observer. So I'm going to leave that up to maybe you can step in and help out with Mylan on that. So Chuck's a great guy. I hope you guys can get together. Yeah, DeFresh, but that Calhoun County Park is up in the central part of the state of West Virginia. I would say it's still probably for Virginia. I mean, you're driving past Spruce Knob and some other great you're driving past the Shenandoah National Park. You're driving probably past some other great observing locations to get over to Calhoun. But if you happen to have family or you're visiting, I know some of the members of the NOVAC, they have some family over in Parkersburg area, and so that's why they are really going to come and visit Calhoun when they get an opportunity. Hey, Chuck, you're welcome anytime. I haven't done this a whole lot. I'm hoping to do it more. This is part of my public observing outreach, and I hope to do it a lot more in the future. And I'm working on a couple of things that are going to help me technically to do have a better, a more complete broadcast. So, but yeah, I still got a few technical things to work out. But thank you, Chuck. I appreciate it. And that's about all I wanted to share tonight. You guys have been amazing. Thank you so much for jumping in. It's been a pleasure to engage with you. I invite you to subscribe to my channel, and I guess you ring a bell for announcements, because I'll be doing more of these live observings, and I'll probably do them with announcements in the future. This is still a platform that I'm learning and playing around with, and there's a lot of preparation, a lot of technical things that have to come together for this to work. I'm amazed at those people who do this flawlessly, but I think I'm getting a fairly good handle on making it work, and hope I'm a good resource and another option in the astronomical community. And if you've got a question, again, I'll just share with you. Always reach out to me. The best place, probably, that's the aggregation of all of my resources, is my webpage, and that is at earthandskyphoto.com. You can go to all of the images that I take, all of the YouTube videos. You have the contact information down here below, my email, my YouTube channel, AstroBin. If you're an astrophotographer or want to be astrophotographer, we can talk about AstroBin. And I have a lot of, I do everything from astroscapes and astro touring. I try to present some images of places where I visited. I love capturing the Milky Way and the landscape, and I've been doing this for a long time. But yeah, just reach out to me if you got any questions or need anything, need any questions answered. But yeah, this was fun. The moon really delivered. It's a waxing gibbous moon, so we're kind of losing that opportunity to really view it in good relief, good shadowy relief. And tomorrow night I'll be doing hydrogen alpha imaging from my backyard. So no broadcast tomorrow night, but I'll let you know in advance when we do future broadcasts. Yeah, yeah, D-Fresh. I would highly recommend the cabin on a weekend. And yeah, what's cool is, it's a cabin at a dark sky, a Bortle 3 dark sky location. And if it's really out of the way, Grantsville, there's not much going on. There are a couple of towns within about 30 minutes that have some amenities if you're looking for them, but I highly recommend it. I think the cabin's pretty cool. Watch the video, and then also in the description of the video, I have links to more information. Man, you guys were great. I'm going to kind of sign off here and say thank you for stopping by, and check out my channel. I hope to do more future broadcasts. This is what I really want to do more of, is public observing, both virtually and in person. And I've got some new tools and techniques that I'm working on. I got some new videos coming on the ZWO Am5 mount. That's one of the things I'm hoping to have out next. And I also have a unistellar EV scope. That's part of my public outreach, and I'm going to have a video coming out on that piece of equipment, hopefully within the next couple of months. But I hope to live stream more and more whenever possible. And this setup I have this one's really very convenient to set up. And thank you, Chuck. Thank you, Mylan. Thank you, Chuck. Thank you, Mylan. Thank you, CM Silver. Hello, CM Silver. Thank you for joining us. I'm guessing you may know ECP, so thank you for coming along. I really appreciate it. And D Fresh, thank you, and ECP, thank you. I'm going to sign off for now, and it's about 8:41, and we had some good views of the moon. I'll leave you with our last view of the moon as we go. It was a really nice night. Why don't we do a little sweeping panorama of the moon before we shut things down? So there's the Apennine Mountains. There's crater Aristarchus, right? Let me change the exposure a little bit. Oops. There we go. Look at the rays coming off of these craters. Yeah. Oh, Jeffrey. Oh, I lost my feed. There we go. Thank you all. Have a great evening and clear skies.